We all know that losing a child is a terrible experience. Well, I just did an interview with someone who turned that grieving experience into a positive and impactful journey. Let's take a look at it. Salut! I'm Valerie and I overcome my complex PTSD. In this video, you will have the chance to meet an author of Journey into Looking Glass, public speaker, grief session facilitator, and nonprofit executive, Dr. Mary Welsh.
Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you.
So, Dr. Mary Welsh, tell me a bit about your daughter, who she was, and what happened.
Okay. Yeah, my daughter was Susie, and she was 31 when she passed, but she led a great life. She was always a happy, smiley kid from the moment she came out to the end. But she was sick most of her adult life, and so she was in and out of the hospitals. And so when she was out of the hospital, she always shared her enthusiasm for life with anybody that she touched. And she was one of those true givers. She would ring the bell for Salvation Army or do bake sales and collect clothes for shelters and different things like that. So she led a good life and has a good legacy that she left behind.
So you said that she was sick all her adult life. So is it why she unfortunately passed away?
Yeah, she had many illnesses and surgeries throughout life. In the end, she got an infection, and she went septic on us. So it was um, not expected, and it was a shock to us all. But we had talked many times about end of life, and she had said she wanted no life support at all. She had led a good life, and when it was her time, that we were to let her go. And so that was a tough choice. That was a very tough choice to let her go, but it truly was the best for her. That was what she wished.
So she was a really special and unique daughter. So you told me before that you did a really special celebration of life for her, something that is not about crying and being at the church and being all with low mood. So do you want to talk a bit about how you changed that to reflect her?
Yeah. So when Susie passed away, um, we had family members it was birthdays and wedding celebrations and different things. And I didn't want to have her service on a day that was special to someone else. And so she died on the 1st of June, and we actually buried her on the 6th, which ended up being her grandfather's birthday, my dad's birthday. And so it was a wonderful thing. But in the meantime, everybody came to our house. Our house is always that greeting place that people came to. And they brought pictures and they told stories. And when we got to the funeral home, I said, "Oh, there's some picture boards in the back," to the director. And he looked at me and he said, "You won the prize." He said, "I've never seen so many pictures." There were 49 presentation boards of pictures. In every picture, she smiled from an infant on up. And so when it was time for her birthday, after she had passed, I told people, "Come, the pool's going to be open, the barbecue will be on, and we're going to have a day of celebration." She didn't cry and carry on in life, even though she was in a lot of pain on a lot of different occasions. So we're going to have a celebration of life. And I said, she had a foster friend when she was younger, and she lived out of a garbage bag. And we followed her to a couple of different homes until one of the foster moms didn't allow guests. And so I said, let's make foster bags. So everybody brings stuff and we'll make these bags. I bought 50 duffel bags and we filled them full. I had 3-year-olds to 90-year-olds in the yard. There was probably maybe 75 people here. And they just filled these bags. They talked, they made inspiration books, they told stories. And I looked around the yard and I'm like, wow, this is really nice. We had to actually have two people hold the bag shut so another person could zip it. That's how full they were. And then we dropped them off at the foster agency, and we took my husband and I, and we took 10 in, and he was just um, overwhelmed with the giving of these bags. And I said, well, do you want to help us carry in the other 40? And he was just ecstatic. He said, you don't know what you just did to a child that was being pulled from a home that would get these bags. And so that was the nugget. After that day, I said, that's what we're going to do. So we created a nonprofit called Susie Q's Kids, and we give these comfort bags to kids that are in hospitals and foster care and shelters and those that are grieving the loss of a loved one. So, so every year we have a celebration of life, and we do something similar just to celebrate and let the smiles and the stories go.
That is really a positive outcome. It's really a journey of sharing and participating in a community and in a way to help with something that was really dear to her. That's
Right.
beautiful.
So she was in the hospital one time, and she called and she said, Mom, a gentleman came in and they cut his clothes off during the, emergency room. And she said, it's indignant. He has no socks, no underwear, no clothes. And she says, can you help me out? And I said, sure. She told me his size. And I went and bought him, jogging suits and underwear and socks and everything, and dropped him off. And she's like, well, do you want to meet him? And I said, not necessary. It might embarrass him. You're choosing to do this. I'm just the avenue to bring it to you. And she was just that was just her. If she saw someone in need, she always spoke up, always did what she needed to do. So it makes life a little easier to remember that and to kind of carry that on in her honor. So I talk about her all the time. So thank you for letting me talk today.
So, in your journey, you wrote some books. So, are those books about the process of grieving, or what are the purpose of those books?
So I went to therapy. I still go to therapy to deal with my feelings and my thoughts. And as I was going through my therapy, my therapist strongly suggested that I write a book. And I'm like, I'm this crazy lady. I'm crazy. I just miss my kid. What are you talking about? She said, you have a unique perspective in life. And she said, and you can help so many different people. And I'm like, no, I don't think so. She's like, no, you absolutely have to write your story. She said, and you will be surprised because everybody you touch, you make them feel better. And I like, well, I thought about it, and I'm like, no, I don't think so. And she's like, no, you have to. And she said, I'll give you one example. I have all the years that I've been a therapist, I never had anybody bring anybody for show and tell. And I said, well, if you want to know me, you need to know my husband, my mom, and my other kid, or my grandkid, or my mother in law. And she said, exactly. I've never had anybody bring somebody else with them to therapy as show and tell. And I said, well, I talk about other people and how I help them or how they help me. I said, it's natural to me. And she said, that's why you write your story. So I wrote about my grief journey. There is no right or wrong way to grieve. It's strictly how I grieved and what I believed in, and a lot of theory behind it. Did a lot of research, talked to a lot of people. So there's a little bit of everything in there. But I feel that it's really important to um, look at life in a positive reflection. And, the cup is half full or a cup is half empty. So that's the way I've always done it. It's always been half full. It's never been half empty. And so I learned a lot about myself in the process. And through telling some short stories and telling some poems. And one chapter that's really important is the what if chapter. That chapter that Valerie, it just tears you apart wondering about the what if. and the could have and the should have, and I want one more. And they can take you down what I call a rabbit hole of despair.
Yeah.
Or you can look at it with a different light, or recognize that you're going toward that rabbit hole and what you can do to avoid it. And so I use positive reflections when I was grieving. And those what if, for example, aren't what if, they're what if, but I did. So what if I'd argued with the doctors? Really? I did. I fired doctors. I had nurses taken off her floor because they looked at her the wrong way, or she did, and I said, everybody's going to have a bad day as a reflection, right? So I did whatever I could. She knew it. I knew it. I loved her. She loved me. In the end, you know, it was her time, and I couldn't change the outcome, but I know that I did whatever I could while she was here. And I was her strongest supporter. And, she just brightened and inspired my entire life from a tiny baby to today, even after she's gone.
Wow.
So I ended up writing the adult book, and then I wrote a journal to go with it. And then I wrote 2 other books, which were for children. And so the journal talks about the 4 aspects of positive reflection that I incorporated in all the books.
So what are those
And
4 aspects?
what are the 4 aspects? First, we have to remember, right? There's the good, the bad, the indifferent. And these 4 aspects can be used in any situation in life where you find challenge. It could be losing a job, losing a home, a family pet. It could be losing a loved one, whatever challenge you find yourself in. Remember the good, the bad, and the indifferent about the person, place, or thing. I'm going to talk from a grieving perspective just to give it relevance in this conversation. Um, and so once you remember, then you can start to reflect. And when you reflect, what impact did that person have on you, and what impact did they have on yourself? And so Susie impacted my life, I impacted hers. I gave you just a brief in my introduction, just a brief, you could tell how much impact we had on each other. So remembering and reflecting on that helps me in creating the new chapter in my life. So the third aspect is to recreate. And I say that because we are all authors in our life. We can't control what happens to us or around us, but we can control what we do in response. And so that's the what if, the could have, that is in the recreate section. It's all about how you deal with life. And so if you're able to move forward and look at other people and how you want to respond, it makes life a little easier. Recognizing those people that are so important in your life to help you. I talked about that rabbit hole of despair. I had a list, I still have the list, of about, half a dozen people that I can call on any minute notice and say, make me just talk, just talk, make me talk. And they know instantly that they need to tell me a story. They need to make me laugh. They need to make me think of whatever is different from what I had in my head when I picked the phone up. And if I dial and I don't get a live person, I hang up and go to the next one on the list, because I need a live person to keep me from going down that rabbit hole of despair, I call it. Because if I go down there, I might be there an hour. I could be there a day. I could be there a week. I could be wallowing in self-pity. It doesn't do anybody any good. But when somebody tells me a story and they make me laugh and remember and talk about that impact, it brightens me. It uplifts me. And then I can control the moment. It takes a little while to be able to control the moment, but you can. And then the fourth aspect is really about relating. And I say it has 3 prongs. And one is self-care. And so I recognized I needed help. right? So I called. I do exercise or I do eating or whatever it is to help you with your self care. I like to journal. I like to write things. The second one is to help other people. And so through my writing, I found that I share stories, I find commonalities with people. I'm able to brighten their day or their moment, and give them a different aspect so that my writing really helps me help others people. And then the third one is to give back in the community. And so through our nonprofit, we brighten and inspire the lives of children and young adults in foster care, shelters, in the hospital or a health situation, or those that are grieving. It doesn't seem like much, but it's a little bag, and it has all kind of goodies in there. There's coloring books, and there's crayons and pencils and decks of Uno cards and Mattel cards, and they always get a blanket and a teddy bear with it. So imagine a child being pulled from their home for whatever reason and having to go somewhere new. If they got this, at least they had something to, a teddy bear to hold on to and a blanket to cuddle in and a little something to maybe keep their mind, active. A child in the hospital,
Oh, it could be
could just,
anything. Like just to tell you a bit of my story, I adopted two kids with special needs. So when we get to adopt them, okay, we kind of meet with them a couple times before having them coming home. But the first child, when I go to grab him home with me, the surprise that the foster family just hand me a garbage bag. So it was like, do you treat that child as garbage? What is the importance of the child? It was kind of shocking. It was a shocking reality. And later on in life, that child was needing a lot of medical care. I say it's children with special needs. So it was days in hospital. And we will always remember the day that somebody from the daycare of the hospital passed and it was a monkey. It was a monkey plush toy. Like instead of a teddy bear, it was a teddy monkey.
okay.
And my child carried it for years. You know, that child has lots of toys at home, but because that toy was received in an experience where it was not home and it was far and it was worried and a lot of emotion related to that moment, that monkey carry as long as it can. And today it is in the souvenir box. But that monkey was really, really important, more than what a grandma or grandpa can give. So those
Right.
bags that you're making are just incredible because they bring hope and they bring joy in a moment where these kids are kind of feeling crappy inside. So this is shifting their perspective of the event, and this is just wonderful. Thank you for the beautiful work that you're doing.
Yeah, I never get to see the child open the bag because I always give it to another nonprofit. I give it to a hospital or a shelter or a foster agency, or a grieving center. And I just imagine the smile and the comment that I get back from people. But like you said, recognizing what your child experienced, you can only imagine that impact. I was in the store one day and I was buying items and I had like 3 buggies full of stuff. And people would walk by and they'd say, "What are you doing? Why do you need so many coloring books? Why do you need so many?" And I'd say, I tell them what, and they would just hand me money in the store. And one lady, I was in the line and she was behind me and she says, "Could you hold on for 1 minute?" And I said, "Sure." And so I had my stuff. She paid for her 1 or 2 items and she walked out with me and she says, "Can I share my story?" And I said, absolutely. And she said, now I'm your age. She said, I'm a grown woman. I've had a wonderful life. She says, but I was one of those foster kids.
Oh,
And she said, and somewhere along the line, someone had the kindness to give me a stuffed animal. And she said, that was my family. That was my constant. I went through so many foster homes in so many different places before I became an adult. And she said, my teddy bear is sitting on my dresser at home today. She said, so you will never know the impact that you're making. She said, that teddy bear has gotten me through so many moments and it's so tattered. She said, but I got it. I was just a young, wee little thing that traveled from place to place. And I'm like, here, I just thought about it being the moment, at the time. But like you said, they connect to it and know that there was that moment of kindness, and it's theirs. It's theirs, and it's a connection that they have through their childhood. So thank you for sharing your story, because it just validates why the bags are so important.
they are so important. They totally are. So, just to recap, because we kind of go over it, but we pass fast, you say the first R is remember. So,
Mhm.
remember the person that you're grieving in a beautiful way. The second R was
To reflect. What
reflect.
impact what impact did they have on you, and what impact did you have on them?
And then recreate.
Recreate. That's the hardest one, but when you do it, um, and you re-experience all those things that you cherished from from the daughters, all those cherished memories, all those cherished stories, um, it it helps me recreate my new life.
So,
And
an
so,
example is like writing your book, is recreate,
mhm, correct,
or
correct.
doing a scrapbooking, or doing lots of different things like that.
Yeah.
And then
Whatever it takes. hmm
relating to others, like in community and things like that.
Correct. Helping others and helping the community.
That's
And
beautiful.
so I do have my books with me. I'll show you the two adult books. So this one here is, looking into looking, finding hope, looking into, say it again, finding hope after the loss of loved ones. You're looking into the looking glass. This journey is um, something that you want to find what makes what motivates you and makes you better. What Each section is just 2 or 3 pages, and at the end of each section is a key takeaway. And it's just a couple of bullets about what you just read, because I say we have fog for brains when we're grieving.
Yeah.
And it has a couple of questions to spur thoughts. And you can write your answers in. So you can pick up and put it down at any place in the book. This one is The Journey into the Looking Glass. And if you know, that's my girl in life. She just standing on the beach with her arms outstretched, saying, it's a big, wonderful world, and I'm glad to be a part of it. And so this is reflects on those 4 aspects. And so really, what did you do in connection to those 4 things? What did you do for yourself today? And what did you do to help someone else? And when you can't fill in what you did to help somebody, you need to rethink that day, and call somebody or do something. And if you didn't do anything for yourself, then you need to take that quiet moment, go for a walk or read a book, or lock yourself in the bathroom, whatever it is, just for a couple of minutes. It's your time, right?
Yeah. And
Then,
I think those are really important in grieving, and they are also important for people that suffer from trauma. Because a
yes,
lot of people watching this video today are either grieving or they grieve a trauma. They grieve the life that they couldn't have. And they are wanting to recreate to have a normal life. And I think those 4 are remember, reflect, recreate, and relating can really help you move from having a trauma and being in a crappy state to recreate the life you want. the life you desire, the life with joy and in positive emotion and being engaged in that life.
Yeah, so an example might be someone that was in a bad marriage, for example, and they had trauma in that marriage. When you look at the remember, there were some good times, but there were some bad times, and you have to remember that, right?
Yeah.
Then when you reflect on it, what was it? What was it that was good? What was it that was bad? What was it that you did? What was it that um, gave you the courage to move forward to maybe get out of that bad situation? You know, give yourself a pat on the back because you recognized the challenge that you were in and you took steps in, if you took therapy, whatever it was you took steps in order to move forward. um, and then when you recreate, what did you learn from that experience? How are you going to move forward? What are you going to look for to make your life better? What kind of self-help are you doing? What kind of person or place or to keep you happy and healthy? And what exactly is it that you're recreating your new life? You want to give a new perspective and not make that reoccur, right? And then fourth, taking care of yourself, helping somebody else. Maybe you recognize signs in somebody else, and you're prone to help them. Maybe it's just sharing your story, and someone listens to it, and they get a morsel of hope from it, and then giving back in the community, whatever that is. It could be volunteering, it could be, wrapping presents at Christmas time for a children's group. Whatever it is you can do to give back, so that helps you relate not only to yourself but in your community and to those around you. So you're absolutely right. It addresses trauma on so many different aspects um,
So,
that can make you heal.
folks, I'll ask you to comment below this video and tell us how those four R, remember, reflect, recreate, and relating to others, how can you apply them in your journey? And we will be there to answer your comment. Okay, so comment
Yes.
under this video and we will answer you back. It's not a robot that will answer you, it's not something automatic. We will be there for you. Dr. Barry Welsh, thank you so much. Is there a last thing you want to tell to people who are suffering right now?
I tell people that you need to weave your story forward. So, whatever that story was that you had, if you can weave it forward. And I did write two children's books that I'll give you just a brief synopsis on that helped me weave the story forward for my grandchildren. And so I call it my special angel. And in the book, all the questions that they asked me, can you hear me? and and Angel Susie is in the book, and she says, "Yes, I can hear you. I'm always listening." And she gave different scenarios for 5 different age groups of how to handle that. And it was just a way to, talk about, are you sad? All the questions that they ask. And it's really a dialogue starter. It's a great book to start a dialogue. And I say weave it forward so our loved ones don't just die. They are such an important part of our life in the past when they were here, but also just as important in life moving forward. So when you're making cookies at Christmas time, you pull out grandma's recipe and you talk about grandma and how she used to make them with you when you were a child. My grandson had lost an uncle, and he drove tank. He was in the army, so possibly he drove a tank. I don't know. We drove by the tank in Arsenal, and he said, "Uncle Keith drives the tanks." And I said, "He still does it." And he put a little hand on his hip and said, "Oh no, Nana, he's an angel." And I pulled off the road, and I turned around and I said, "Angels have jobs." I wove the story forward. He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, Angel Susie's watching kids in heaven." I said, "Uncle Keith is in the tank. and he's protecting all the soldiers. So however you want to weave the story forward, those little ones just need that help. And so this was a good helper. And then we created coloring books for our bags. All the bags get this. Grieving bags get the angel book. And it's really about positive sayings, good characteristics and positive sayings. So I would say to each and every one of you, just remember it's how you look at life is how you're going to react. And so try to look at that cup half full in any situation, and it'll make it a little easier to handle that challenge of the day. And just remember how impactful they were on you and how you want to weave that story forward, and it'll make your day a little brighter, and you'll inspire other people as well.
Dr. Mary Welsh, thank you so much. And folks, it was an amazing message that we just get now with Dr. Mary Welsh. Don't be shy. Watch the video again. Share it with your friend and with some people that you know that need that important message on how to remember, reflect, recreate, and relate. So on that, I'll see you in the next video.
Thank you, Valerie. Thank you, everyone, for listening. I really appreciate you coming out for the message today.
And remember, you create the life you want.